One NFL player's wife was hated because she caused so much drama. She even got into fights with cops right before kickoff.
Next thing I know, I get chokeslammed from behind, and I'm getting my...
Another was despised after exposing her husband's foot fetish.
Mr. Ryan, did you and your wife make the foot fetish videos?
These women turned their husbands into laughingstocks across the league, and their husbands' teammates hated them for it. The NFL players versus Brent Grimes' wife. Miko Grimes is perhaps the most controversial NFL wife in modern history, a woman whose outspoken behavior didn't just embarrass her husband's teams, but actively destroyed relationships, created locker room divisions, and ultimately cost her husband millions of dollars. Brent Grimes was a legitimately elite player during his prime, making 4 Pro Bowl appearances and earning recognition as one of the league's top cornerbacks. But his career became overshadowed not by his performance on the field, but by his wife's behavior off it. During Brent's tenure with the Miami Dolphins from 2013 to 2015, Miko's actions became so disruptive that team owner Stephen Ross eventually cited her behavior as a factor in Brent's release. The first major incident occurred in September 2015, when Miko was arrested outside Sun Life Stadium just minutes before a Dolphins-Bills game. But this wasn't just a simple arrest. She was charged with battery on a law enforcement officer, resisting arrest with violence, and disorderly conduct after allegedly headbutting a police officer. The timing was devastating. It happened at 4:15 p.m., just 10 minutes before kickoff, creating a media circus that completely overshadowed the game itself. Turns out she had a bad rep with local cops because of her views.
Because on my radio show, I talk about police brutality, and my program director was telling me that you're only supposed to talk about sports. And I said, well, police brutality is involved in sports. And so a lot of cops, allegedly cops, were calling in and saying all these things they were going to do to me and all this stuff, and I didn't believe it.
She detailed what happened that infamous night before the game kicked off.
Well, I tried to go back to the tailgate area, and the cop, who obviously knew who I was, pushed me to the ground and told me I couldn't go back. And I said, how you tell somebody they can't go back? What if I left my purse, my keys, my tickets, whatever? People don't even go inside. Some people tailgate the whole game.
The situation escalated violently.
Next thing I know, I get chokeslammed from behind, and I'm getting my...
But Miko's most destructive behavior came through her relentless social media attacks on her husband's own teammates. In December 2015, following a Dolphins loss to the Indianapolis Colts, she launched a brutal Twitter assault on quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Her tweets were surgical in their cruelty. I knew this quarterback stunk the minute we signed to this team, but I tried to keep quiet so I didn't discourage Bay E from believing in his team. She didn't stop there, targeting local sports writers and essentially declaring war on anyone who supported Tannehill. The Dolphins front office was so concerned about her behavior that they met with Brent and Miko at least 5 times to express their concerns, but the attacks continued. What made Miko's behavior particularly toxic was how she seemed to take pleasure in creating division within the team. But perhaps Miko's most damaging moment came after Brent's release from Miami. In July 2016, she posted what was widely condemned as an anti-Semitic tweet about Dolphins owner Stephen Ross and executive Mike Tannenbaum. Gotta respect Ross for keeping his Jew buddies employed, but did he not see how Tannenbaum put the Jets in the dumpster with that Sanchez deal? Her attempt to clarify the comment only made things worse. When I wrote Jew buddies, I was speaking about how a lot of communities, Jewish, Christian, gay, sometimes fraternities and sororities, will hire their own people for jobs before others. That's a fact. The controversy upset the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' Jewish owners, the Glazer family, when Brent signed with that team. Even after moving to Tampa Bay, Miko couldn't help herself. In November 2017, she appeared on The Breakfast Club and made a shocking claim about Oakland Raiders players.
But the reason Derek Carr got injured is because the Raiders' offensive line allowed him to get injured because he was against them protesting. And they had a fight in the locker room before that Monday night game in the Red. Yes, I got the tea, baby. They were fighting in the locker room, and that's the only all-black offensive line in the NFL is the Raiders.
This claim was immediately refuted by the players involved, with Donald Penn tweeting, "It's crazy how people will make up lies and tell a story so false and untrue." What makes Miko's story particularly fascinating is how she justifies her behavior as strategic rather than destructive.
We wanted to leave. I said some things to get him out of his contract. We wanted to leave. They did not want him to leave. I knew that if I kicked up enough shit, they would let him go.
According to reports, this strategy actually worked. The Dolphins released Brent in March 2016, and he signed with the Buccaneers for more money than Miami was offering.
And I said, I just need 48 hours. And in 48 hours, he was released. All it took was 48 hours of me on Twitter.
And how long did it take for him to get the new deal?
The deal was already done.
It's already done. That's how you do it.
That's how you
do it.
Yes. So he got 3 years, $26 million right after that.
But the cost was enormous. Reports suggest that NFL teams were genuinely concerned about signing Brent because of Miko's behavior, with Adam Schefter reportedly saying that 30 of 32 teams had told him they wouldn't sign Brent because of what Miko had said.
Adam Schefter was on ESPN saying, I talked to 30 of the 32 teams in the NFL, and all 30 of them have told me none of them will sign Brent Grimes to a contract after what Miko has said. And so then he came to me like, they're saying I'm never going to play again.
Brent's career effectively ended after the 2018 season. And while age may have been a factor, there's no doubt that Miko's behavior contributed to his inability to find another team. Miko Grimes might have caused a stir in the NFL, but Ryan Clark went after a former NFL player's wife because of her skin color. Ryan Clark versus Robert Griffin III's wife. The explosion began in May 2025 when former NFL quarterback Robert Griffin III posted a series of tweets claiming that WNBA player Angel Reese hated Caitlin Clark. RG3's posts weren't just casual observations, they were detailed accusations that included specific examples of what he saw as Reese's hostile behavior toward Clark. His tweets garnered millions of views, reflecting his massive social media following. But it was Ryan Clark's response that turned a sports opinion into a full-scale personal war. Clark, a former NFL player turned ESPN analyst, didn't just disagree with RG3's take. He launched a devastating personal attack that went straight to the heart of RG3's interracial marriage.
And so now, if you're RG3, when is the last time within your household you've had a conversation about what she's dealing with? You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on what they're feeling, what Black women deal with, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese.
Clark's attack was surgical in its precision and devastating in its implications. He wasn't just questioning RG3's sports opinion. He was questioning his authenticity as a Black man, his understanding of Black women's experiences, and his very identity. Clark went further, suggesting that Black men who marry outside their race often feel like they have to prop up the woman that they married over Black women by denigrating Black women. But Clark didn't stop there.
When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. And he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin is what makes her a good wife.
The personal nature of Clark's attack became even more obvious when he mentioned RG3's wife being in the background of the video, essentially using her presence as evidence of RG3's supposed betrayal of Black women. RG3's response was swift and furious. There should be no space in sports media for personal attacks, and wives and children are always off limits. You attacked me and my family in a public forum on a level that shows how low of a person you are. Disagree with me all you want, challenge my take, but keep my family and wife out of it. That's a boundary that should always be respected. But perhaps the most powerful response came from RG3's wife, Greta Griffin herself. She posted a humorous TikTok video where RG3 pretended to hold her back, with captions like, "When someone has something to say to my non-confrontational husband and say it with your chest." The video was both defiant and lighthearted, showing that while the attack was personal, the Griffin family wouldn't be intimidated. The controversy grew so intense that reports emerged of ESPN colleagues wanting the network to take disciplinary action against Clark for his comments about interracial marriage. Facing mounting pressure, Clark eventually issued a public apology on the Pivot podcast. His apology was lengthy and detailed, but it revealed just how calculated his original attack had been. "I'm doing the exact same thing, or it may have seemed that I did the exact same thing to her that I'm trying to keep people from doing to Black women. My thought process was, in seeing certain clips on my algorithm, on my timeline, they do a podcast together. In that podcast, they talk very openly about not being Black enough. They talk very openly about biracial kids, what it's like to not be accepted in the Black community. They very rarely talk about Black women." Clark admitted he was out of line and out of bounds, emphasizing that families should be off limits, but the damage was done. He later posted another apology on social media, this time to his own family, for the drama caused by the feud.
And I think this is what I'd like RG3 to know, that no matter how much he continues to echo the microaggressions of racists, he'll be no less Black than me.
While Clark and Griffin's drama unfolds in 2025, one innocent video back in 2010 threatened to turn a team against their coach's wife. New York Jets players versus Rex Ryan's wife. Rex Ryan and his wife Michelle found themselves in the midst of one of the most bizarre and uncomfortable scandals in NFL history, involving a personal revelation that nobody, absolutely nobody, was prepared for. This isn't just about embarrassment. This is about how one coach's private life became a weapon used against his own team, creating an atmosphere so toxic that players had to choose sides in ways they never imagined. In December 2010, Rex Ryan was riding high as the head coach of the New York Jets. The team was 10-4, positioned perfectly for a playoff run, and Ryan's brash, confident coaching style had made him one of the most recognizable figures in professional sports. But what happened next would overshadow every touchdown, every victory, and every moment of glory the Jets had achieved that season. It all started with a Deadspin investigation that uncovered videos posted by a YouTube user called I Have Pretty Feet. These weren't just any videos. They were foot fetish content featuring a woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to Rex Ryan's wife, Michelle. But here's where it gets really uncomfortable. The voice behind the camera, the one making sexually charged comments about the feet being displayed, sounded exactly like Rex Ryan himself.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can I help you with anything?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just resting for a few minutes.
Okay. Oh, you don't have to put your feet in. You can leave them out.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah, oh yeah. Actually, you have really beautiful feet.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I touch them? Wow, they're like really soft.
The evidence was damning in its specificity. The woman in the videos shared multiple personal characteristics with Michelle Ryan, and profiles on foot fetish dating sites matched their exact location in Ellicott City, Maryland, complete with matching birth dates. This wasn't just speculation. This was a trail of digital breadcrumbs that led directly to the Ryan household. When confronted by reporters, Rex's response became legendary for all the wrong reasons.
Mr. Ryan, did you and your wife make the foot fetish videos?
Well, obviously I knew, these questions, this question's coming and things. It's, this is a personal matter and I'm not going to discuss it.
But the damage was already done. The timing couldn't have been worse. This revelation broke just 4 days before a crucial game against the Chicago Bears that would determine the Jets' playoff fate. While other teams were focused on game plans and strategy, the Jets were dealing with a media circus that had nothing to do with football and everything to do with their coach's private sexual preferences. What made this situation truly devastating wasn't just the embarrassment, it was how it became a weapon. New England Patriots wide receiver Wes Welker, known for his intelligence and wit, turned Ryan's personal scandal into psychological warfare.
He does a great job of making sure everybody's on the same page and everybody's putting their best foot forward. And you can't just stick your toe in the water, you got to jump right in. You got your foot up in the air and you want to go out there and just put your best foot forward. So he's a great player, he's got great feet.
Welker managed to work foot references into nearly every answer during a press conference, making a total of 11 subtle digs at Ryan's personal life. It was psychological warfare at its finest and most cruel. Patriots coach Bill Belichick was so disturbed by his players' behavior that he benched Welker for the first offensive series of their playoff game. There were mixed reactions from the Jets players. Some have revealed that they couldn't see their coach in the same light again and had lost respect for him. However, other Jets players rallied around their coach in ways that revealed the true character of that locker room. Darrelle Revis, one of the team's biggest stars, summed up the appropriate reaction when he told reporters, "Foot fetish? Whatever. I mean, that's his wife. At the end of the day, that's his wife, and he can do whatever he wants with his wife." What's even more interesting is how this scandal affected team dynamics in unexpected ways.
And when that shit came out, front page New York, my wife's gonna freaking kill me, right, when that came out, but I'm like, damn, I can't tell you how many of my players came up and said, dude, I like feet too.
Years later, Ryan would reflect on how this personal revelation actually brought his team closer together in some ways.
Yeah, that's me. That's who I am. I own that. And if a chick's got great feet, I'm looking.
Scandal didn't destroy Ryan's career, but it fundamentally changed how he was perceived. He continued coaching the Jets until 2014, then moved to Buffalo, and eventually transitioned to broadcasting. But the foot fetish story followed him everywhere, becoming a permanent part of his public identity. Even as recently as 2024, the topic continues to haunt Ryan's professional life, with an incident where he accidentally showed his wife's feet on his phone's lock screen during an ESPN broadcast, reigniting the entire controversy. This wasn't the only time the New York Jets would see their players hate on one of their teammates' wife, because it happened again in 2013. New York Jets versus Antonio Cromardi's wife. On October 27, 2013, the New York Jets were humiliated by the Cincinnati Bengals in a devastating 49-9 loss that left fans, players, and families reeling from the sheer brutality of the defeat. But while most NFL families suffer in private during these moments, Terrica Cromardi, wife of Jets cornerback Antonio Cromardi, chose a different path, one that would expose her raw emotions to the entire world in real time. The game was a complete disaster for the Jets defense, with Bengals quarterback Andy Dalton throwing for 325 yards and 5 touchdowns, making the professional athletes look like amateurs. For Antonio Cromardi, a veteran cornerback who took pride in his defensive skills, watching his secondary get destroyed was more than just professional embarrassment. It was personal humiliation. But it was Terrica's real-time Twitter commentary during the game that turned a bad performance into a public relations crisis. Her tweets were raw, unfiltered, and brutally honest about what she was watching. She didn't hold back, describing the Jets' defense as looking like Pop Warner, a reference to youth football that suggested grown men were playing like children. Her most damaging tweet directly called out Andy Dalton's dominance, making this look like Pop Warner, referring to how easily Dalton was picking apart her husband's secondary. But she didn't stop there. Additional tweets included harsh assessments like, "This is just embarrassing, the whole team failed to show up today," and suggestions about quarterback changes mid-game. What made Terrica's meltdown particularly damaging was the timing and the public nature of her criticism. While players' families often express frustration privately, taking it to social media, during a live game crossed an unspoken boundary in NFL culture. She was essentially providing live commentary that undermined her own husband's team while the game was still being played. The backlash was immediate and harsh, with followers criticizing her for publicly attacking the team that employed her husband. But Terrica's response revealed something deeper about her relationship with football and her right to have opinions about the sport that dominated her family's life. She defended her commentary by emphasizing her football background and family connections to the sport. "I guess 'cause I'm a wife, I'm not supposed to comment on a game. That will never happen. I was raised in this game, uncles played pro, cousins too." She continued, "You guys in your comments, this is football good and the bad it comes with the game. I can voice my opinion. We need to step our game up." Her defense highlighted a fundamental tension in NFL culture: the expectation that players' families should remain silent and supportive, even when witnessing poor performance, versus their right as knowledgeable football people to express honest opinions. The incident also highlighted Terrica's complex role as both a former reality show star, Candy Girls, and an NFL wife, someone accustomed to public attention but perhaps unprepared for the intense scrutiny that comes with criticizing your husband's employer. Antonio Cromardi himself was no stranger to controversy, having fathered multiple children with different women and faced constant media attention about his personal life. In this context, Terrica's Twitter outburst might have seemed relatively minor compared to other family-related headlines the couple had generated. The broader context of their relationship included previous dramatic incidents, including a reported fake suicide attempt by Terrica in 2011, where she sent concerning text messages to Antonio while he was in Miami, leading to police breaking down doors to check on her welfare. The incident was later revealed to be a reaction to suspicions about Antonio's fidelity. And while Terrica's outbursts were on Twitter, this next woman saw her let out her frustrations live on radio. St. Louis Rams versus Kurt Warner's wife. Brenda Warner, wife of a legendary quarterback Kurt Warner, became a polarizing figure during Kurt's tumultuous years with the St. Louis Rams from 1998 to 2003, while Kurt was establishing himself as one of the most unlikely success stories in NFL history. Going from grocery store stock boy to Super Bowl MVP, Brenda was fighting battles on his behalf that no one asked her to fight, creating controversy that often overshadowed her husband's remarkable achievements. The first major incident occurred in December 2002, when Brenda called a local radio station to publicly contradict head coach Mike Martz's version of events regarding Kurt's injured hand. The situation began when Martz claimed credit for suggesting that Kurt get his injured hand x-rayed, which ultimately revealed a broken bone that had been misdiagnosed as a bruise. But Brenda couldn't let Martz take credit for what she saw as her medical expertise. Speaking to the radio station, she declared, "Martz had nothing to do with it. All week long I said, 'Kurt, I'm a nurse. You should go get it x-rayed.' The doctors never once said he should get an x-ray. They said, 'No, it's only bruised.'" Her call was essentially a public correction of her husband's head coach, broadcast to the entire St. Louis market. This wasn't a private disagreement or a quiet correction. This was a very public challenge to Martz's authority and credibility, delivered by the quarterback's wife on live radio. Despite the public nature of the controversy, both Kurt and Martz attempted to downplay any conflict. Kurt's response was diplomatically neutral. "None of it's really an issue, so I'm not worried about it and nothing I need to comment on. It's just really not important. We know how we went through things here on Monday, what we said, and how we approached this. We're comfortable with it. Anything else is best left unsaid. But if the 2002 incident was embarrassing, what happened in 2003 was potentially career damaging. Following Kurt's benching in favor of Mark Bulger, Brenda once again took to the airwaves, this time calling Steve and DC on the mall radio station to essentially demand her husband be traded. Her comments were stunning in their directness. Probably just from the point that we want to play, he wants to play, plain and simple. So if he's not going to play here, then he wants to play somewhere. You just want to be wanted like anybody, whether you're a DJ or whatever you do. This wasn't just expressing frustration. This was a public ultimatum delivered by a player's wife to his current team. She was essentially holding the organization hostage on the radio, demanding they either play her husband or release him to find opportunities elsewhere. The timing made the situation even more volatile. Kurt had been benched for Mark Bulger, and Coach Martz had indicated the change wasn't necessarily permanent. Brenda's radio call put additional pressure on an already delicate situation, forcing the team to deal with public demands from a player's family member while trying to manage their quarterback situation. What made Brenda's behavior particularly problematic was the pattern it established. This wasn't a one-time emotional outburst. This was a consistent willingness to take private team matters public through radio appearances, creating a dynamic where the coach and front office had to consider not just the player's performance and attitude, but also his wife's potential for public criticism. The broader context of Brenda's activism reveals a complex character shaped by her own strong background. As a former Marine and registered nurse, she was accustomed to speaking her mind and advocating for what she believed was right. Her fierce loyalty to Kurt was rooted in their remarkable love story and her role in supporting his unlikely journey to NFL stardom. But her public advocacy created uncomfortable situations for everyone involved. The coaching staff had to worry about family members second-guessing their decisions on the radio. Teammates had to wonder if their own family members might go public with grievances. The front office had to consider whether Kurt's talent was worth the ongoing public relations complications created by his wife's radio appearances. The ultimate resolution came in June 2004, when Kurt was released by the Rams, exactly as Brenda had suggested on the radio the previous year. In April 2004, Martz had publicly stated, "Kurt is one of the classiest people you'd ever meet," and denied any rift between them. But the pattern of public pressure from Kurt's family had undoubtedly contributed to an untenable situation. Kurt would go on to revitalize his career with the Arizona Cardinals, leading them to a Super Bowl appearance in 2009 and proving that his talents were far from finished. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.